If you've followed me for a while, you know that I absolutely love infrared saunas, right? But what if you don't have an infrared sauna available to you? Or what if there's no room in your apartment for a sauna? Well, I have the perfect solution for you. Infrared sauna mat. So you can just come home and while you're watching Netflix, you can just turn it on and have access to an infrared sauna right in the comfort of your own home. I use mine all year long, but it is especially cozy in these winter months that are coming up. So if you're interested in finding out more and getting a little discount with your infrared sauna mat, what better gift do you want to give yourself with the little detoxification that you can do every night if you want? Check out the link below to learn more. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast. My name is Margaret Romero. I'm a Columbia-trained functional medicine nurse practitioner, and here I uncover the truth behind chronic illness so that you can finally heal. I'm a women's health and hormone expert and love empowering women to finally live their life fully and powerfully through optimal health. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. For another week of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Thank you all for coming back for another week. So I'm doing something just a little different today. I put out a little questionnaire on Instagram last week and yesterday for those of you who maybe wanted to ask some questions. So I'm doing a mini Q&A today. I've got a few questions to answer. The first one is about SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth. And, I have to be honest, SIBO is sometimes difficult to completely eradicate, and at times it can come back. So that's kind of why it's such a pain in the neck to get rid of. Now, what to do? There's a couple of things. There's lots of things to do, actually. Well, one is to get tested, and the test of choice is a breath test, and where you're breathing in and it tests the gas to see if you actually have SIBO, because bacteria will emit a particular gas, and if you have either one, then you have SIBO. So once that comes back as positive, there are things like Xifaxan, which is an antibiotic, and neomycin, which can kill this bacteria. The Xifaxan is more effective with more of the hydrogen-dominant SIBO, and neomycin is more for the methane-dominant SIBO, which those are the two different gases that can be emitted from these bacteria. This is bacteria that resides in the small intestine, and so typically most people will get sort of like gas and bloating, like high up, really high up, like in the stomach area, typically compared to lower below the belly button. So so this is one option. You can try either one of these. These are prescription strength antibiotics, but it will only kill the particular pathogen without really disrupting the rest of the microbiome. So that's a good thing. The other thing is that you may need things like what we call biofilm disruptors, which are supplements that could help break down, the film. There's sometimes a film that are surrounding the bacteria, making it really hard to be killed. And so we use these things called biofilms to help combat that. So that's one thing. The next thing you want to do is obviously to restore the good bacteria. And there's certain probiotics that are good and some that are not so good. So it really depends on which bacteria we're talking about. So sometimes lactobacillus is good in some people and sometimes it's not good in others. The other thing too is that there's a special diet called the Fosmap Diet that goes along with this. Once we sort of get rid of the bacteria, or while we're getting rid of it, we don't want it to grow. And there are certain foods that these bacteria love. They love it, love it, love it. So we want to stay away from those. And there's a million diagrams. If you Google Fosmap Diet, what is good and what is bad. So keep those in mind. Okay. I should probably have someone on the podcast to talk about this specifically, because this could be like a 2 or 3 hour lecture, honestly. Okay. So the other one is, what would you recommend for a child with chronic hives and red skin when scratches? Oh, and raised red skin when they scratch it, I guess that's what they're saying. Okay, so for me, anyone, a child, an adult with hives, I would look at the gut. I would get a stool test and a food allergy test. Not necessarily the one, I would do a few different types of food allergy tests. The ones that you normally have done at an allergist would be, most of them are IgE responses. They put it on the skin, and if you react, pretty soon, then that's a positive reaction. Food sensitivities sometimes can take up to 24 or 48 hours to show up in the body. And so those are different. Those are different than food allergies versus food sensitivities. So for me, I love to look at the food sensitivity panel because most people know they have like a shrimp allergy or a peanut allergy, right? They know they have to carry an EpiPen. If you have a major reaction like that, where your throat starts swelling and your tongue swells and you're having trouble breathing and you have to go to the emergency room, then you must see an allergist and get an IgE test, because those are, emergency allergic reactions. A lot of us also have food sensitivities. We don't get reactions that severe, but maybe the next day you'll be a little constipated, or maybe you may even have some rashes or hives that come and go and you don't know what's going on. And so these are food sensitivities. It could even be sometimes people get sores in their mouth, or they may just have like foggy brain and not sure what it is. And sometimes it could be from food sensitivities, especially gluten. We see that a lot, that brain fog. We see that with gluten often. So for any child or adult, I would look at food sensitivities. For children, I look at dairy sensitivities. I would pull them off dairy, depending on how old they are. A lot of children cannot tolerate dairy. Dairy and cheese. I would also look at gluten, and if they're consuming cereals and things like that, maybe they're sensitive to that. And so I really look at the gut, and I also look at food sensitivities when it comes to children dealing with hives. But I do the same thing for adults too. It could also be toxins and any sort of chemicals. So you want to make sure that your home, if your child is a toddler and toddler or child, they're always on the floor. And so making sure that you're not washing your floor with, chemicals, things that have, phthalates and all, you don't want your child who's walking or crawling and then those hands are going in their mouth. So that's a no-no. You want to look for all of these things. And so children, they have toxins. They've got toxins built up from all different kinds of jabs that they've gotten so far. And there are also toxins that are transmitted from mother to baby as well, mother to infant. And so that's another thing we need to look at. A child with hives is not normal. There is an issue happening. And it is not an issue of this child needs to be on Claritin, this child needs to be on Zyrtec. No, those are Band-Aids. That is not how you treat hives in children. That is not how you treat hives in adults. Unless you knew you just had a reaction to shrimp or something like that, and you need, Benadryl, you need prednisone or something like that, you can't breathe. Of course, you need those things. You need, EpiPen. But if you have a child that has on and off hives, an adult that has on and off hives, there is something going on, and it needs to be investigated very deeply and not just given Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid, because if it is food, if it is toxins, those toxins and all those foods that he or she may have a sensitivity to will continue to worsen and worsen and worsen. And what happens is that the gut lining becomes compromised. And when that happens, then the child is no longer able to absorb nutrients from their food, and they stop growing, and they stop gaining weight, and they stop learning, and their brain doesn't work as well. So this is really important for the parents who are listening to this. Do not discount hives like, oh, there's just a little allergy every time they have whatever food or this or that. Hives and rashes. It is not normal, and it needs to be looked at. And I would look for a functional medicine pediatrician to treat your child. Okay, on to the next one. Let's see here. How do you test for parasites, and what's your approach to treating them? Okay, so how do I test for it? Always a stool test for everything. I'm going to tell you right now, anyone that has a chronic illness, the first thing I'm going to do is a stool test. It gives me so much information you don't even know. It tells me if there's pathogens, if there's parasites, if there's worms. It tells me if you don't have enough digestive enzymes. It tells me if you are recirculating estrogen and your body and your liver is not able to detox. That is what that tells me. So what I think we should do is do the stool test, see if it's there, see what's going on. Now, sometimes there are parasites in other places of the body, the liver, and different organs. And it's not necessarily in the stool. I don't necessarily see this that often, but what I will do occasionally is putting people through, not occasionally, I do this pretty standard, depending on where they are in their health. I do not do this for people that have very low reserves and that are very ill and very weak. I do not put them on a detox, but I will do detox protocols for individuals once I've built them up so then they can handle a detox. So with those detox, usually if there are hidden parasites, those will also come out. So that is my approach. I will do herbal. I do not necessarily do prescription, though I can, but I don't do prescriptions. That's not my go-to. It is herbals. That's where I start. And I also am building the body up as well, so the body's not so tragically susceptible to parasites. When you build up your body and your reserves, with nutrients, with good food, with good supplements, then your body it's not so weak if there is a parasite that comes around. Do you know what I mean? And they've got good, not only digestive enzymes, but I'm losing the word. What is the word I'm looking for? They've got good acid in their stomach, so it gets to kill things. Like, let's say you were to eat something that had something in it, it could potentially get rid of it for you. But if you're weak, then the parasite has more power over you, right? You get what I'm saying? So that's my approach for parasites. Parasites are very common, by the way, you guys. I see parasites often, and most people think you get parasites if you're traveling to a foreign country or somewhere really like wild or in the jungle or something. And that is not true. You don't even have to leave your state. You can walk down the street and have bad sushi. I'm going to tell you right now that the worst fishes that contain the highest number of parasites are eel, tuna, Those are the highest ones. Now, out of the tunas, the Toro tuna, which you actually pay more for, actually has a higher risk of parasites than regular tuna. But to be honest with you, I had a parasite too. And this was many years ago. I no longer, well, first of all, I rarely eat sushi anymore because I do not want to deal with a parasite. If I were to go into a sushi place, I get the veggie ones. I get like the sweet potato, or I'll even do the salmon, but I will never touch tuna. I won't ever do like tuna tartare. Never for the rest of my life. And let me tell you, I love eel. Do you know how much I love eating eel? Eel has so many parasites in them. So, just an FYI with that. Okay. And one more. Thoughts on healing ulcerative colitis through functional medicine and avoiding biologics. Yeah. Avoiding biologics is always what I strive for sure, for everyone. Because what is that really? It's just an immunosuppressant that you get infused. I don't even know how often, once a month or once a week or something like that. It depends. And which biologic. So ulcerative colitis is inflammation of the bowels. And what I would do, obviously, we're going back to the stool test. I got to see what's going on. I got to see if there's pathogens. I got to see how much inflammation is going on. I need to see if you have any protective layer, which most likely most people with ulcerative colitis will not. There's a protective layer called secretory IgA, and we have to build that up. That is the protective lining. It protects your bowels from pathogens and yeast and all of these things. And so building that up, building up the person, because if they've had ulcerative colitis for a long time, they're most likely nutrient deficient, which is thereby going to affect their immunity, and that inflammation will continue to fester. And so ulcerative colitis, there's been research after research about specific probiotics for ulcerative colitis. And, that stool testing is key. And if I were to work with someone with ulcerative colitis, we would be repeating that stool test a couple of times in a year, at least definitely twice in a year's time, but maybe even 3 times, just because the condition is so, can become so severe. And so it would be really nourishing foods, finding out if there's any food sensitivities, finding out if there is permeability issues, which most likely there is, healing that, and really being super, super nourishing to the body, to the gut, all of the healing supplements and the powders that go along with that. So that is my approach with ulcerative colitis. Let's see if there is anything else. I only got 4 questions this week. So I'm going to be, if you're on Instagram, I would love it if you can follow me on there. It's Margaret Romero on Instagram. I am on there every single day. You guys, I cook. I share funny stuff. I share things that make me laugh to make you laugh. I also show you how to eat healthy and how healthy food doesn't have to be hard. And being gluten-free doesn't mean that you're eating rice cakes all day. I'm going to tell you that right now, that is not true, because I eat amazing, healthy, nourishing foods. And also, let me go back to ulcerative colitis. Would be really good. It would be to either make a really amazing bone broth at home, like in a crock pot, or my personal favorite is Kettle and Fire. Their bone broth called butter chicken. Butter as in butter, butter chicken. Amazing, amazing, amazing. That, you don't even need to add salt at all to that. nothing at all, because it's perfection. Let me tell you, all you have to do is put that in a pot, have a cup in the morning. First thing, forget the coffee. You're going to do bone broth in the morning, because that's what's going to heal your gut, not that coffee. That's actually makes you very, very acidic. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. And I will talk to you all next week. Listen, so I'm going to be putting this on here maybe twice a month. I'll be asking a question. I'll be putting a poll up on there on my Insta stories. And you can just send me those questions and I'll be answering them right on the podcast. All right. Thank you so much for listening this week, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are happy and you are healthy and you are safe. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll talk to you all next week. Bye for now. Oh, and also, if you are in the U.S. and you celebrate Thanksgiving, I just want to wish you and your family a beautiful, beautiful Thanksgiving this year. I know it's been a tough time for all of us, but I hope that this is a truly heartfelt occasion for all of you who get to see your family, and wishing you all many, many blessings.